Again, the idea in example 3 here is the same as example 2 and example 1. We're just adding a little bit of a level of difficulty. The level of difficulty that gets added in this one is now there are 3 things. So you now have to find a common denominator between all 3 of them. So if we look at A, I have 5 over 2. I sometimes leave a little bit of space in between each because I want to be able to show what I'm multiplying each one by to get a common denominator. I look at my numbers first. I have the numbers 2, 4, and 3. What is going to be the least common multiple of all those? The lowest common denominator is going to be 12. So I'm going to need to multiply this one by 6 and 6, this one by 3 and 3, and this one by 4 and 4. Next, I look at my variables. This one has no variables. This one has a squared. This one has a. So I'm going to need an a squared in the first one. The second one doesn't need any more, but the third one needs an a. Because now, just looking at my denominators, this will be a 12a squared. This one will be a 12a squared. And this one will be a 12a squared. So minus sign there, still plus sign there. When I multiply my numerators, I have 30a squared minus 9 plus 8a. So first, we need to get a common denominator between all 3 of them now. Once I have a common denominator with all 3 of them, I can now add and subtract. Looking at the terms, none of them are like terms, so nothing's going to be put together. But I will have a 30a squared. I'm going to write the plus 8a second and the minus 9 last. The order doesn't really matter, but it's, when we write trinomials, normally we start with the a squared, then the a, then the number. So this is sort of proper form. This whole thing is one factor on the top right now. So I cannot simplify unless it's identical on the bottom. The factor on the top, I might look to see, is there a common factor? Is there something I could factor out? No. So this would be done at this time. Sometimes I like to circle my final answer. So what did question 3 bring? Just an added fraction, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but the idea is not different. We just now need a common denominator between all 3 of them. And we still have to use the skills that we had from the other ones as well. Can I erase part A? Is everybody done? Yeah? Okay, part B. Again, I'm going to rewrite it with space, 8z squared 2z plus 1 plus 3z 4z minus 4 and then minus. Z can be a very dangerous variable because it can start to look like 2's. So just be careful with Z's. Okay. Again, I look at my numbers first. 8, 3, and 6. Can you see that the lowest common multiple of those is 24? So I would need to multiply this one by 3 and 3. This one by 8 and 8. This one by 4 and 4. Next, my variables. Z squared, Z, nothing. So the first one already has the variables. The second one is missing a Z to make Z squared. And the third one is missing Z squared to make Z squared. And this one has some of the difficulties of example 2. We have more than one thing in our numerators. Put it in brackets. What does that mean? That means when I multiply by 3 here, it has to distribute to both. When I multiply by 8z, it has to distribute to both. And when I multiply by 4z squared, it has to distribute to both. So I'm going to rewrite it now with my common denominators. I have 24z squared, 24z squared, and 24z squared. The first one on top will be 6z plus 3, plus sign in between. Second one will be 24z squared minus 32z minus, and the last one will have 32z squared minus 4z cubed. Our final answer, we have a common denominator. Now we can just add and subtract as needed. So our common denominator will be 24z squared. For this second one here, or this second one?
No, for
the middle one. Fraction?
Yeah.
Okay.
First, wouldn't that be 32?
Yes, it would be. Thank you for noticing. I think what happened there for my brain is, and this is a dangerous thing in math, is you start thinking ahead, or you look at something else, and maybe I looked at the bottom 8 times 3 and was thinking ahead and just didn't concentrate on that number. But yes, that should be 32z squared. Good, because we would have checked our answer at the end and went like, oh no. Now we're adding and subtracting. Do we have like terms? Yes. Can you see that this 6z and this minus 32z are like terms? Can you see that you have a z squared here and a z squared there that are like terms? So when we're adding the tops and adding the bottoms, we're going to have to put together our like terms. Also, if we want to write this in the right form, like usually you'd write your z cubes first, then your z squares, then your z's, then your numbers. Okay? So with this, I would probably write my z cubes first. Do I have any z cubes? Yes. What number should I write here? Okay? This is, I'm in your head. Can you write the number there? Now, check. Did you do it right? Oh my goodness. I want to do it in blue. Oh, it's still one orange. Here we go. Here it's blue. I wanted to make the mistake that you guys would make. What's the mistake that you would most likely make? You see the minus 4z cubed? Don't you want to write a minus 4z cubed? There's nothing that it has to combine with. Right? This is because there is a subtract sign there. And that subtract sign subtracts all of this. And even though I made a big deal of it 5 minutes ago, I'm going to guess that if I told you to write the 4z cubed at the beginning, 80% of you would be like, yeah, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to write the minus. Like algebra is not hard, but it's tricky. And it's tricky enough that it's hard. It's like, that doesn't make sense. It will trick you. You have to be very careful. So sometimes when I see the subtracting, to remind myself, I put brackets. I add the arrows going, hey, don't forget that that subtract is going to go to both of those. It's going to subtract the whole thing. And then you'd be like, when you're just tempted to write the 4z cubed at the beginning and write it with a minus sign, you see the arrowhead and say, oh yeah, I put that as a reminder for myself that that 4z cubed will become Now, the z squared, those are the ones in the orange box. I have 32 z squared. I'm going to subtract 32 z squared. I'm going to be left with no z squared. Next, my z's. I have a 6z. I'm plussing a minus 32. That will give me minus 24. Yes. Sorry, that was mental math in slow motion. And then with my z's, do I have any z's? Yes. Oh, I did that one. Do I have any numbers? Yes, just the 3. Plus 3.
It's 24.
Yeah, that was like something was bad. Thank you. Like, I wanted to move ahead. My brain was saying, it's not 24. Something was wrong. There we go, 26. Had a little extra line here. It doesn't need this much extra. There we go. Then, on the top, this is all grouped together. You'd have to check, is there a common factor? No. But sometimes there will be. So we always have to check as we're going along. Whew. So, lots of places to make mistakes with algebra rules. And as you saw on this one for me, there's just your basic mental math mistakes that you will make. So it's a balance between trying to do a question as quickly as you can, but as quickly as you can without any mistakes, which usually means you have to slow down and check things as you're going. Okay? So if you get to the final answer and it's not matching the back of the book, it's probably because you tried to do it too fast. And we want to do it fast because we want to get it over with, but we have to find that balance between what is the speed that I can do this and do it right. Right? That's why they have speed limits with cars. Right? You could drive faster, but then you'd probably make mistakes when you turn corners, and that might be bad. Sometimes just bad for your cars. Sometimes bad for your car and bad for you. Sometimes bad for your car, bad for you, bad for your neighbor's cat. You know, so there's things that we have in place. We have to slow down in order to not make mistakes. They don't give you a speed limit on your question, right? They don't say, this question has to take 3 minutes. If you finish early, you just have to sit there until 3 minutes is up before you can move on to the next one. But you can find out if you were speeding when you check your answer and you go, oh, it's not right. That means you tried to do something too fast and you made a mistake. And sometimes we'll make mistakes even when we're going slow. As you saw in this question for me, I did 6 plus minus 32, and I was at 24. And I was doing it slow, and it didn't work. So it happens. Okay, questions for this one are 9 to 13.